Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of PSicast, Episode 7. I am your host, Robert Marcy, and I'm joined here with Bill Montana and a special guest, Tim Wisseman. And from Tim, you might know him from Outlaw Effects, and I'm sure he's got some really interesting things to talk about, so I'm just going to go ahead and pass it over to Bill.
Hey, it's Bill Montana. And we're on with Tim, this special episode tonight. So the only thing I got on the news feed is Stephen's Magic Emporium is giving us a coupon, a special coupon for our listeners. All you need to do is spend $60 or more, and you get $10 off by typing in PSicast, P-S-I-C-A-S-T. And Tim, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you guys.
All right. We are live, and say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
I'm not sure how many of them actually ever heard your voice. So,
yeah, okay.
I mean, I know most of them own closets full of your stuff, but probably never, heard you speak about it. So you got into building bizarre magic how long ago?
Oh, I was building bizarre magic when I was 16 years old, and now I'm 50. I used to subscribe to the New Invocation, and Tony Andruzzi would personally send me the newsletters and stuff. I got those. I love those. I've never been to a bizarre convention. I'm up here in the mountains building stuff. I lived in Fresno for a little while, and I got associated with Hocus Pocus and built them a lot of bizarre stuff. When I was living in Fresno, that's where I met my wife. I married her down there. We moved into a house. We were looking for houses. We ran into this one house. As soon as we stepped in the door, we knew that was the house we wanted, and we bought it on the spot. Just boom, this is it. We didn't even go and look at the bedrooms. This was the house we were going to buy. Turned out it was a haunted house. And we lived there for a while. We had some crazy experiences in there. And eventually we moved out of Fresno, and I moved back to my hometown up in North Fork, up in the mountains, and I've been building props up here, living in the mountains.
Wow. Excellent. So what, now this ghost house, we got to talk about the ghost house.
Of course.
What were some of the experiences?
Well, when we went in there, and we cleaned up this house, and we were getting ready to move in, and I thought it would be really cool in the living room if we painted a giant circle with compass points on it on the floor with paint. It was really cool looking, really creepy. But we got to decorate any way we wanted. My wife, she likes magic. She loves magic. She used to work at Hocus Pocus. She answered the phones there for a while. She loves me doing magic. She really, really helps me with it. But I was cleaning up the house and doing stuff, and these empty soda bottles that were sitting on top of the refrigerator went flying across the room. And I put them back up there, went to the back in the back room. I didn't know what was going on. I thought maybe the wind blew it, and they blew off, or they flew off again. That would happen. And eventually, we had kids, and the kids are little guys, they're little toddlers, and we got them this Winnie the Pooh walking toy where it was like a little horse with wheels on it, and they'd get on it, and they'd push buttons on it, and it would play Winnie the Pooh music, and they'd scoot around. Well, eventually, that thing would come on in the middle of the night and play Winnie the Pooh, like at 3 in the morning by itself.
Oh, that's weird.
And it would do it night after night. It would never do it during the day, but at night this thing would come on and play Winnie the Pooh. And my wife, she looked up on the internet, like, what's going on with this? And she found out that this Winnie the Pooh thing, when the batteries got really low, it would come on by itself. And I'd say, yeah, that might be true, but why is it moving around? And there's no motor in it. So
yeah, that's
actually moved to different places. And one time I was sitting in my workshop with my daughter on my lap, and I had a big bookshelf of bizarre books on the other wall, and a candle sitting on the top just flew off of the top shelf, flew right at me, just went flying at me, and I knocked it out of the air. It was going to hit my daughter.
Wow.
And we had a friend that was really into ghost investigations come over, and she stayed the night, and we ran digital recorders. We got all kinds of weird voices, just strange EVPs. And one time we had a swamp cooler that would be running in the middle of the day. A swamp cooler would be running, and when you walk down the hallway where the swamp cooler was pointed, you could start to hear these voices coming out of the white noise, and you stand there and listen, and it sounded like you were inside of a restaurant. You could hear glasses tinkling. You could hear people talking and eating dinner, and it was just coming out of this machine, this cooler, this one cooler. And you go over and cut it off and listen. It would be absolute silence. You wouldn't hear anything. And you cut it on again, and you go and stand in it, and you hear it again. You walk 10 feet down the hallway, it was gone. You couldn't hear the sound. You go back to this certain area, this certain spot, you'd hear it again. And
that's creepy.
It happened on 2 different days, and that's the only time it ever happened. So, very strange. It got real creepy after a while.
Yeah. Sounds like no full body operations or anything in the middle of the night?
No, we didn't see anything. But after we moved out, we couldn't make the mortgage pay. We got foreclosed on. We moved out, and the house sat vacant for a long time. Well, about a year or so, the neighbor who lived next to us, he started hearing boxes moving around and stuff moving, because there was a few boxes left in there, I guess, furniture. He heard all this movement in there, stuff moving around, and he thought somebody was squatting in there. Somebody had moved in there and taken over. So he calls the security number that's up on the door. He's supposed to call a security company if you hear anything, if you any suspicious activity. So they sent a security guard out. He opened the door, and my neighbor went in with him, and they went in there, and the house was completely empty. There wasn't a scrap of paper or a box anywhere. The house had been completely cleaned up.
Yeah.
And nobody entered the house. Nobody went in. Nothing was unlocked. Nothing was open, and it just creeped them out.
Wow.
Yeah, that is strange.
It was neat living in a haunted house, but after a while, it got kind of weird. It wears on you a bit. You get nervous after a while.
Well, no wonder they probably couldn't resell the house, because as far as I know, there's a law stating that if you're going to sell a haunted house, you have to tell potential buyers that this place is marked haunted.
Yeah. Well,
I had a buddy who lived at one in Laurel, Ohio. One night they had a full body operation that said, "Get out." So that his dad, there's a kid when he was a kid, and his dad threw a window through the front living room window because all the doors just magically locked. They went outside. They got outside. The chair's there. They're there. The window's perfectly fine. Dad says, "Let's get in the car. We're out of here." Get into that one. I went up to investigate the house years ago. It's creepy. It's creepy. Yeah, the car started moving towards us, and that was about the time we pulled up the gun and started shooting. It was very not pleasant. So now, when you built magic for Hocus Pocus for years, right?
Yeah, I still build for Hocus Pocus. There's a whole line of magic on Hocus Pocus. Yeah, if anybody orders anything, yeah.
Okay.
Like spirit telegraphs there, my cube's there. The cube was the first thing I ever built and sold magic-wise. You can still buy it from Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, I've actually seen one of your cubes. A guy had one in Columbus, Ohio.
Uh-huh.
After one of the lectures. It's pretty cool, actually. And then you started. You were building freelance too, right?
Well, before that, everything I built was really for myself. I would build all kinds of stuff for myself. Like when I was 16, I started building just crazy stuff. I was really interested in Tesla, so I took an old TV apart, and I built myself a Tesla coil. And I built this Tesla coil so I could actually strap it to my body and wear it under a coat. And what I would do is I would put on a metal ring with a little tiny pin sticking out of the ring, and I could hold it up to a grounded object, and I could have a spark of electric about 2 inches long come out of the ring and hit the object. And when I got to college, I went to UC Santa Cruz. I would take this, and I would go to strange places wearing a Tesla coil. Like I would go to the mystery spot over there, which is this shack that's built on the side of the mountain, supposed to have these weird gravity effects where things go uphill that shouldn't.
Yeah, the one where you can, like, one person stands on one side of the room, they're taller than the other person, and they switch places, and they do all this weird vortex stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. and they had all this scientific information on the wall about Stanford University came out, and they measured gravity anomalies, and it was just completely unexplained and weird. And I took the tour, and we got up on top of the hill, and they had this giant pendulum, out of iron on a chain, and they would push it, and it would swing back and forth for a while, and then the thing would start going in a circle and rotating around in a circle, and then it would rotate the other way, and then stop swinging, and everybody was walking around doing stuff. Well, I took my ring and my Tesla coil, and I went to touch it with my ring, and I made the spark, and I asked the tour guide, "Hey, is this normal?" The tour guide looked at that, and he said, wait, let me get my camera, and they went running down the hill.
Wow.
And also, I would go to like a psychic fair on the beach on the boardwalk side of cruise, and I'd go up to the crystal lady, and I would start touching crystals, and I'd start arcing into one of the chains, and I go, wow, these have a lot of power. These have a lot of energy. And I get the weirdest looks.
And that's what started it all. Yep.
Yeah. And I took a piece of oak wood and split it in half and put a Tesla coil inside of the oak, and I could bring Tesla energy out of the top of this thing. It was like an altar. We'd sit around in a circle, and I could bring this electric out of it. It was just completely weird. That was another one.
Oh, that's cool.
It's always so cool when you can pull off pranks like that with those kinds of people. It's fun.
Well, in college, I was a holy terror. I did terrible things. I was at Cal College in Santa Cruz, and they had these 7 colleges arranged in a pattern, 7 colleges around these 2 grassy areas. And I went out during spring break, and I went and hung these cardboard signs over all the names of the dorms. We had Beard Dorm and Turner Dorm and all that. I renamed them all the 7 Dwarves. So everybody came back, all the dorms renamed the 7 Dwarves. And then I went onto the grass, and I took Miracle Grow and made a very big pentagram, Miracle Grow. So nothing happened, nothing happened. And then about a month later, this pentagram started growing in bright green on the lawn. Oh, wow. And then I got my hands on some liquid nitrogen. I had this big ball of liquid nitrogen from the laboratory over there. And I would go sneaking out into the woods around the campus there, and I found these stoners out there that had a campfire, and they're smoking marijuana out there, this campfire. And I just walked up in a black cloak, just a full black cloak, covered in black, and just dumped the liquid nitrogen on the campfire, just froze it solid, and walked away. That became a big story. Everybody's talking about it. This guy came out of the woods and froze our campfire. Oh man! And after my second year of college, they told me that my degree in electrical engineering, computer engineering, was de-accredited. So if I got my degree, it wouldn't amount to anything. It wouldn't be taken anywhere because the whole program at Santa Cruz was so bad that they couldn't be accredited by the engineering standards boards. So I decided to just quit that, and I came back to North Fork here, and I became a logger. I spent 10 years logging. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was fun.
Yeah, that's kind of an odd transition there.
Yeah. And then as they shut down the mill here, so I transitioned into computer programming.
Huh. Yeah, moving.
I know it's a windy day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I'm on the back lot of the warehouse. So. Fascinating.
So those were some really cool stuff that you were able to pull off, but at the same time you were kind of like checking to see what would work and what doesn't work, and that probably gave rise to some of the creative elements that you were able to come up with later in some of your effects. Is that right?
Well, probably my whole life I've loved science. I've studied all aspects of science. Electrical. I love woodworking. I love chemistry, metalworking. I love all that stuff. So I combine it all into making an effect, including computer programming. I wrote a video game called VJ Planets, and it was a huge game back in the early '90s. Gigantic game. It's still being played, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And what was that on? Like, what format? Was it like a computer or?
Well, originally it was for MS-DOS, and it was being played on.
Wow.
Yeah, it was being played on bulletin boards, BBSs. But now there's an internet version of it called planets.inu, which is a web-based version of it. I passed the rights and everything on to somebody else, and they're taking care of it for me. I don't have anything to do with it anymore. Yeah, but it lives on. It's my design, my original game, and it's still going. And they have huge fans. There's lots of fans. They have conventions still. They're having a convention over in Europe, a PlanetsCon. They get together and they play this game.
Wow. Wow, really interesting. Yeah, because I like computer. I love video games in any way, shape, or form. But MS-DOS, that's probably that was before my time.
Yeah, that was back in the dark ages, man.
I was a young 20-year-old programming video games, pulling down like $160,000 a year, making that was pretty good. I was doing good.
Nice.
Yeah. And then you started building for what happened next after Hocus Pocus? Outlaw?
How did I start building for Outlaw?
No, I mean you went from you were building for Hocus Pocus, and then you started building for Outlaw Effects.
Well, what happened was I was building for Hocus Pocus, and Hocus Pocus they made a deal with Outlaw Effects to build something called the Ark of Azeroth.
Okay.
And they needed coils in it. And Outlaw wanted my coils, and Paul Gross at Hocus Pocus said, you need to work with this guy, this Outlaw guy, and you need to build these coils because this Ark of Azeroth is going to be an exclusive with Hocus Pocus, and we're going to do good on it. So I started working with him then, started putting coils in. And that's the first thing I did. And I started building other stuff with Rick, and we built all kinds of stuff.
Uh-huh.
Probably our biggest seller is the Hobbs box. Real simple.
Yeah. And then one day Pandora got combined with the Hobbs box. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, made Hobbdora, yeah.
Yeah. And you were the one that put the electronics in the Reanimator, right?
The Reanimator, yeah. That's all my design. I put that together. It's an interesting one.
I probably got to see one of those when we went out to the Bizarre Convention in California last year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, a guy brought a Reanimator and fired it up.
Okay.
That thing's big.
It's a big beast. I used to perform that at birthday parties. It's neat. One really neat thing you can do with Reanimator, if it comes with a bat, and the bat's supposed to come alive and move around and stuff. I always put my bat into a box, and before I'd open the box, I put on a pair of surgical gloves and very carefully handle it and pull it out of there, and that would convince everybody it was a real bat. There's no doubt, because I was using surgical gloves to pick the thing up, and I added so much to that effect. I just didn't grab it and throw it on there. I acted like it was dangerous. Kids love that thing. They love that effect, actually. It's kind of funny.
It's an interesting gizmo. I mean, it's like, when you look at photos of some of the stuff online, you don't really understand how much time, energy, and materials went into this thing to build it. I mean, the thing's huge.
It's gigantic, yeah.
You think this thing's okay, maybe a foot by, no, it's it's way bigger than you could possibly imagine.
It's like 22 inches by 16 inches, yeah. Big.
And it plays really big too.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
So
you didn't make many of those, did you?
I probably built about 80 of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm continuing to build them. I'm going to keep building them. I'm going to do a run of them this summer, make a bunch more of them.
Okay. I didn't think there were that many built. I mean,
well, originally what happened was Outlaw, they announced it before it was even designed, and they sold these things for like $400. And, or $450, I think? Yeah, $450. And so he got like 25 pre-orders on the thing.
Right.
So I did a huge production line and made a whole bunch of them at once. Didn't make very much money on it, but I made a lot of them.
Another 450. I didn't know they're like 4,000.
Oh, I think they're 1,500 now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know they went up quite a bit, which makes sense because I could tell what kind of work went into that because everything on that thing's casted, manufactured.
It's plated. Yeah.
Yeah, because I noticed on the Pandora when it came back, the hinges were handmade by you, and the latch was handmade. I thought that was a really nice touch.
Yeah, I take a straight sheet metal and I bend it and forge it and I heat it with a torch so it gets soft so I can bend it around and make the handmade hinges and stuff in the house.
Yeah, that adds a lot of realistic detail to a lot of the props. Now, what's your favorite prop to build?
Favorite thing? I really like building the Thericas. Those are fun. They're a weird little thing. You ever see those?
Yeah, but for those that don't know what that is, would you mind explaining?
The Therica, it's two antennas. They're twisted coils, and has a little light in the middle. And you put together this base. It has 3 legs. You put this thing on top, and it's a spirit light. And so what happens is when there's spirit activity or something, the light will flash. And it kind of twinkles. It comes on a little bit, flashes lightly. That's a good one.
Wow.
I'd like to build a lot more like technological-based things. I have some plans on making some new stuff that's kind of based on combining technology with ghost work.
Okay. Is there any information you can leak about that?
Sure. There's this rumor that's been going on that people talked about. Edison, he was trying to make a machine to talk to the dead. And there's some designs that have kind of leaked out online that are really cool. In England, there was this group. It was called the Skull Group. They got together and they did this 5-year experiment where they would take cans of film, of 35 millimeter undeveloped film. They put it under a bell jar, and they'd sit around and they'd have a medium and have a seance, and then they'd go develop the film and they'd get spirit messages on that film. And one of the messages they got was the circuit diagram for Edison's spirit phone, and it was signed by Edison. And if you look at the diagram, it consists of a germanium diode and 2 coils and some antennas and stuff. And they hook those to a amplifier, and they can hear spirit voices and stuff coming out of this thing. It'd be very interesting to make something where you make an old-timey, very primitive thing, much like the Etherica, but then you maybe fuse it with a modern amplifier, take a modern amplifier circuit and plug it into it. Kind of old and new together. That's kind of a design I'm working on right now. Something like that.
Cool.
Interesting, like with the big dial knobs and all that?
Well, it'd actually be 2 pieces. It would be like a modern electrical device, kind of amateur built though. It wouldn't be real professional, but definitely something that somebody would go to Radio Shack and put together, combined with something that looks like it's 100 years old, and they're wired together.
Mm-hmm.
And they pick up voices and stuff.
And it would be a spirit communication device.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that fascinates me, just completely fascinates me, is the Frank's box, which is a radio that has its tuning circuit messed up, where it goes through the entire radio spectrum and pulls out spirit voices.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've seen stuff on TV where they have boxes that will interpret like the voltage on two plates or something going on two plates, and a computer would diagnose what it is, and it would interpret it as like a number or something, and it would say something from a pre-recorded sound bank.
Okay.
Those things fascinate me because those, if you make it just right, you can have this thing and just set it, in a room, and the thing is going to do stuff by itself for real. It's going to trigger certain things where you're not even touching it. So I'm interested in experimenting with that.
Yeah, and I think some of the original Frank's box patterns are online.
Oh, yeah.
Because Frank was an interesting guy because every spirit box he made each one better than the first one.
Yeah.
He only made a few of them, though. I mean, he didn't make 120, something like that. When we were talking to Jerome early in the year, he owned 3 of them.
Yeah, I've heard of people actually getting pretty good results using Frank's boxes when they go into haunted areas. They actually, some stuff happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had a couple of ghost boxes around here, and they're pretty fun to play with, actually. I actually recommend people getting a ghost box if they're doing, bizarre, because it's a nice little prop,
Yeah.
Scanning through the things, and people hear what they want to hear anyway, so, why not? Adds a lot of ambience. The problem is most of the ghost boxes now are in these two, the cases are too fancy. Like the SPV and a few of the other ones that just look too much like a regular handheld radio.
Yeah, they
like
take,
what Frank did.
Yeah, they take regular old handheld radios and they modify the tuning circuit so it just goes really rapidly through the bands. Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes through pretty fast. But Frank made his own cases and most of his own electronics, and even though he was modifying earlier circuits, but Frank's were pretty cool.
I have this radio laying around here that's extremely low frequency receiver. It receives far below the radio band, stuff that's around 5 hertz all the way up to about 150 hertz. And you plug a pair of headphones in that, and you listen to it, and you hear all kinds of weird stuff. You hear these whistles and pops and all that. And you pick up a lot of the 60 hertz hum from power lines. But if you take that thing out in the middle of the forest somewhere and you listen to it, you hear some strange stuff on that radio. And it's all real radio.
It's called extreme low frequency radio?
Extremely low frequency radio, yeah.
Okay, because I got a couple devices around here that produce extremely low frequencies. Yeah. ELF technology, as it's commonly known. Yeah, interesting. Very fascinating. Got my head spinning on some Miracle Grow.
Somewhere out there, there's a ham radio magazine. I have not been able to find it yet. It's a quest I've been looking for all my life. When I was in high school, there was I remember this hurricane came in and hit California, and I was in high school, and there was an electronics teacher who was a ham radio operator. He had a stack of ham radio magazines, and I took one of them, or took a couple of them. I borrowed them. I had to bring them back. And I was sitting in the library during this hurricane reading this thing, and I came across this article about somebody who made a radio that talks to the dead. And it just absolutely blew my mind when I read that. And I read this whole article, and it was amazing. It had circuit diagrams. It had explanations. It was amazing. And I returned the thing to the electronics teacher, and I don't remember what magazine it was, and I don't know what year it was. It could have been from the 60s, the 70s, or even, yeah. But I wish I could find that, because that was just amazing. It really got my head spinning when I saw that.
Yeah, I'm thinking because I have some diagrams around here somewhere in my collection of devices to use to speak to the dead. I'm wondering if I've seen that one, actually.
Have you heard of Dr. George Meek?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a great book about him, the Ghost of 29 Megacycles.
Yep.
And he made the Spiricon. That was an interesting machine.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot to be said there, because that kind of device is an entire show.
Yeah. When I actually perform these things for people, do stuff for people, I'll just do one thing. I don't do a show. I just have one thing. Like, hey, I got to show you this cool thing I got. A lot of times it's not a trick. It's a real thing. This is a real ghost box. It's not a trick. It's not tricked out. It's a real deal. And we play with it.
Yeah.
It's fun. What's funny is yes.
No, go ahead.
I used to work at a children's science museum in Fresno called the Discovery Center. Used to work there for 7 years. And while I was there, I developed a magic show. It's called Tim's Magic of Science Show. And I have a full show. It's an hour-and-a-half long show that I do for the kids. And what's funny is there's not any electronics in it. It's all chemistry. It's a chemistry show. And it's really weird. It's a really neat thing.
So you got like the liquids that change colors and all that?
Yeah, liquids that change colors. Last time I did the show, it was in a Mormon church on stage. And right behind me was a picture of the Last Supper with Joseph Smith standing in the middle. Very
yeah, of course.
And I did this show for a bunch of Cub Scouts. And it was a packed house. It must have been 400 people or so. I had a microphone. Did the show. It got a standing ovation at the end, and then all these kids came through, and they were like shaking my hand, and it's just like the most amazing thing I ever saw. It really felt good. I've never seen a reaction like that. They were just amazed. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff. I had a friend that used to go do a science show with like magnetism and big Tesla coils. He even brings his Tesla coil ray gun, which is a big tube gun. It's about 4.5 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
That shoots, like 7-8 foot sparks out of it.
Wow, that'd be a pain in the rear to take out and set up. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was, because he has a big Tesla coil. It's 10 foot tall.
Oh wow. I would do something. I would do something simple. I would have things like a cardboard box with a hole cut in one end. The hole was about 6 inches in diameter, and it was otherwise the cardboard box was completely taped up. It was about 20 inches by 20 inches square. And I would take a smoke machine and blow smoke in it. Blow fog in it, a fog machine, fill it with fog.
Yeah. Put
it over my head and slap the sides of it, and it would blow out a perfect fog ring, a ring of fog, and it would come out really fast.
Wow.
It would line kids up and put a styrofoam cup on each of their heads and fire it at them. And the ring, when it hit the cup, it would just knock it right off their head.
Oh, so it's like a little vortex cannon.
Yeah, it's a vortex cannon. Absolutely.
Cool.
They used to make these giant vortex cannons that would fire rings like 10 foot in diameter straight up in the air. And I would fire these little rings. It's easy to make one of those ring boxes. I'd fire it over the crowd of kids, and then I'd hit the box again. A ring would go out and collide with the last one and destroy it. It was neat. I have a bizarre version of Think Ink that I do. It's kind of neat. I have a clear glass, and I have somebody hold it in their hand, and then I have a silver goblet, a silver drinking mug, and I would pour clear water from a sacred spring or something that has set in a silver cup for days, gathering the energies of the cup, the silver, and pour it in there and tell the person they'll feel a tickling coming up their arm, and all the impurities in their body will leave their body and go into the liquid. And they're just standing there holding it, and then after about 30 seconds, it just turns black instantly. Just boom. Right in their hand.
Ooh.
I do that.
Now, did you publish that anywhere?
No, that's just Think Ink. That's old. That's an old effect. That's in about 20 different old chemistry magic books out there.
Yeah, but you seem like have some nice subtleties on it that I could actually use in metaphysics.
Yeah, I got it perfected. It took a while to perfect it, but it's an exact formula. It uses sulfuric acid and some potassium iodide, starch. Yeah, you get the exact formula down. It works really well. The solution goes bad after about a week. You have to remake more. So I make it straight.
No, a week's plenty of time.
Sulfuric acid. Yeah, I make it from stock sulfuric acid. I have the mixture here that just mix it right up, and I have it so it's like 50% one, 50% the other. And in my my mug, my stein, I have a divider that divides the liquids so that I put half on one side and half on the other side. They don't mix. So the act of pouring mixes the two together and activates it. And then I have a
okay, so it's like a mirror glass in a way.
Yeah, like a mirror glass, but you can't see it because it's a solid metal cup.
Yeah, because it's got a partition in it that you can pour out of.
Yeah, but you have partition one side and the other. I just used some silicone rubber, the plexiglass, and just glued it in there and made my own partition. That worked really well.
Interesting.
Huh.
And I do this other effect. It was called Power back in the day. I don't know who sold it. I think Mary Tormé might have sold it. I don't know. But Doug Henning used to do it on TV.
Okay, tell us more.
Yeah, it consisted of I do it with 2 large flasks. One's full of liquid, clear liquid water. The other one's completely empty. And then I slowly pour from one to the other. And you can see the clear liquid going into the other one. And the clear liquid is filling the other one. And just pouring across, nothing's happening. And then I stop and pour a little more and stop, pour a little more. And finally I pour the entire contents in there and it turns blue. There's a tipping point where you get enough of this solution in there, it turns blue. It's a very strange reaction. And then what I do is I bring out some magic powder, like salt or something, and I get a pinch of it. I put a pinch of it in there. I was supposed to put exactly 11 grains of this in there. I put it in there, and I have a countdown, 3, 2, 1, put it in there, and it's supposed to change, but nothing happens. It's kind of it's a comedy routine. Nothing happens. So I take it and say, okay, I guess I have to pour it from one to the other. And I start pouring it into the other one. And as I pour it, it's still blue. It's blue coming across. I have blue in the other one. And then I hold up the one I poured into, start shaking it around, and I get frustrated because it's not turning. I shake it, and the one I'm not looking at, the one I started pouring from, I start agitating it just a little bit, and it starts turning clear. And I don't see it. The kids see it, but I don't see it. And I'm shaking the blue one, and it's not turning. And the kids are going, oh, look at the other one. And I look down, I'm surprised that one turned. They pour them together, and it all turns clear. It's kind of a funny little routine.
And that was published by...
Yeah, it was published...
you published that in Ultra Flame?
What was the magic company? It started with a T. So.
There was Thermergy that was around for a while that made the billet pencils.
That's the what? Thermergy. The one they
published. Okay, yeah, they're no longer around. Bummer.
They published it. The effect was called Power. They published it as Power. Power.
Huh.
I do another effect they published. It had these crystals that would just appear in water. You'd have a jar of water, and these crystals just start appearing out of nowhere inside of it. And those were these pieces of gel. These little. It's like that instant snow, that gel that makes up instant snow. Only they're big crystals or gel crystals. You put those in water, and they swell up, and they become really big. Like half an inch in diameter. And you take those and you put them into a chemical solution. They swell up with the chemical in them. And you put them in water, and they disappear because they have the same index of refraction of water, so they're completely transparent. You can't see them. And then you put a few drops of a chemical in there that will react with them. And pretty quickly they start showing up. They just appear out of nowhere. it's a good close-up effect for a few kids to see. Not really good for stage, but it's good close-up. That's another one.
Well, I don't know how many people are working stage anymore.
Yep.
I know a lot of us are working smaller venues. Oh. Yeah. I didn't know you actually did this effect that was used by Doug Henning. That's interesting.
Yeah, I've done thousands of magic shows, and at one point in time, I was actually running summer camps at this Discovery Center science camp, and I would run full week magic camps, and that was really interesting. We actually would have a day where we do bizarre magic. You know, I would have like my Spirit Telegraph running. I'd have the Reanimator there. I'd have dead raps knocking in the closets and stuff. I did this one effect with using Christopher Taylor's Real Ghost.
Yeah.
I love that Real Ghost. That thing's amazing. I would have a bowl of popcorn, and I would set up Real Ghost behind there somewhere hidden and bring the string up and attach it to a kernel of popcorn and bury the popcorn and the string of popcorn deep in the popcorn, and have all the kids gather around using popcorn to attract the ghost, because the ghosts we had loved popcorn. And, you know, I hit the remote, time delay would go off, and a bunch of popcorn just come flying out of there into the air.
Oh.
And the kids would run up and grab the bowl and look for any shenanigans going on. They couldn't find anything. There's nothing there. It's just empty bowl. It's just a bowl of popcorn.
Nice.
And before that, we would capture a ghost. And the way I did that, I had these two empty bottles that you could put together. They had large necks on them where you could stack them. And I had a roll of duct tape, you know, help catch the ghost, and a nickel. And I tell the kids, we're going to use this nickel because we're going to try to attract a greedy ghost. We take this nickel and put it in a jar, and the ghost will come into the room, go into the jar, and it will take the other jar and put it on top. It will catch him. And so we'd wait, put it in there. I'd put the other jar on top and say, we definitely got the ghost. He's in there. He's mad. He's starting to appear. He's make his presence known. Look at that. And this thick white cloud would start forming in this empty jar. And then I duct tape it. Put it in a quarter. And the kids were like, aren't you going to let the ghost go? I'll let it later. Well, wait for it to simmer down. You know, he's angry right now. Wait until he disappears, and it's okay. Then we can let him out.
That's great.
You know how that was done?
Not dry ice is what I'd think, but
no, not dry. One of the bottles has like 2 or 3 drops of hydrochloric acid, uric acid.
Okay.
The other one has a few drops of household ammonia. And they're just sitting there. I like to put like pieces of paper on top to keep the fumes in there so they don't escape, so they're concentrated and they don't go anywhere. Just put like 2 index cards or business cards on top, just keep them close. And when it's time to form, you just take those, throw them away, bring it together. And as soon as you bring it together, the hydrochloric acid fumes go in and mix with the ammonium hydroxide fumes. And it forms ammonium chloride, which is ammonia salt, which is white.
Okay.
It's a white mist. It's a white smoke. It forms in there. It's a really neat effect.
Wow. That is very interesting. We should give them a quick safety thing. Don't play with acids unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly why I don't publish any of this stuff, because I don't want anybody to get hurt. And you have to know what you're doing when you're playing around. It's like sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid, and flammable and stuff. So that's why there's not a lot of chemical magic going on these days. It's nobody publish that anymore.
You know, I don't blame them for that, really. Because at one time I was certified as an acid tech when I was doing some painting stuff. Uh-huh. Because we used very caustic chemicals to strip, very caustic things. And, I got burned a couple times. Chemical burns are the worst.
Oh, yeah.
because the stuff got, the junk that we were using to strip it got on one of the ladders, and I leaned up against the ladder. You know, I'm 20 feet in the air leaning up against the ladder and burned my leg. Ate right through the pants. Yep.
Ooh.
There's this one effect that was popular for a while, the hot foil. Remember hot foil, where you mix this chemical and some oil? And you
yeah, and then it smokes up and catches on fire?
Yeah. That's the mercury chloride.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mercury chloride. It's deadly poison. If you get it on your skin, it goes straight in your bloodstream. It's extremely dangerous. That's stuff that I would never play with. And they used to sell that.
Yeah, they did.
That's unbelievable. The toxicity is just off the charts of that.
Well, I read a lot of the early magic books from the 1800s, and a lot of them use some very toxic and deadly stuff.
And I've actually done a lot of those. I actually have a lot of those chemicals. I've actually done some work with mercury. And I did this one reaction, it's an oscillating reaction. And you have to use mercury chloride to do it, but you would mix two chemicals together, and it would turn yellow, then it would turn orange, then it would turn black, and then it would turn yellow, orange, yellow, black, faster and faster. It would just do these flash changes.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very crazy looking.
Yeah, really cool looking stuff, but really deadly stuff. Mm-hmm. Most of them used, a lot of them used mercury. A lot of them used, some of them actually used cyanide. I mean, in the things, you know. Now hold this in your mouth and spit it out, and it'll blow fire. It's like, what?
Cyanide's not as dangerous as you would think. It's not that. Mercury is very dangerous. Cyanide gas is super dangerous, but a lot of stuff. Cyanide's not that bad of a chemical. It's very biological. But
some of them were just bizarre.
It doesn't remain in the body for a long time. Either it's going to kill you, or it's not. But mercury, you get some of that in your body, it's going to stick around for a long time. It's going to mess you up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mercury's really bad, man. It's a really good mirror.
This other effect I really love is I'm a member of the Boy Scouts. I help with a Boy Scout troop, and they like starting fires. They like starting fires using primitive means and stuff. I have this one effect where I rub two sticks together. I just pick up two sticks off the ground, put them together, and start slowly rubbing the ends, just slowly. And all of a sudden, smoke starts pouring off the end, and it bursts into flames.
Wow.
That was a lot of fun. And I'm barely moving it. I'm just barely rubbing it. And the boys are going, what in the world? But that one's done with the potassium permanganate.
Okay.
Yeah, you take that, you put it into a piece of like black crepe paper, make a little ball of it, and you carve out the end of a stick, and you stick it in there. Then you take another stick, and you take another piece of crepe paper, and you put a few drops of glycerin on it, the kind of glycerin you get to the drugstore.
Yeah,
and bring them together. The glycerin mixes with the potassium permanganate, and it oxidizes, bursts into flames.
Wow, very cool.
That's a really famous experiment done over and over, or fact done in the bizarre community. It's been done forever, and it only works half the time. I know Tony and Druzy tried to do it like 3 different times at the invocation at their convention, and I don't think he ever got it to work. It was a running joke.
Fascinating. Did you figure out what he was doing wrong?
Oh yeah. If you get a little bit of water, I don't know if he figured it out, but I've had it happen to me a lot. If you get a little bit of water in the permanganate, it won't light. So you need to dry it out. You need to make sure it's fine and crushed. But you
gotta make sure your stick's dry.
Yeah, make sure everything's dry. But if you take a pan, you heat a pan a little bit, and you put the potassium permanganate in the pan, and you heat it up, you can drive out the moisture. So you have nice bone dry permanganate. And then you make sure your glycerin doesn't have any water in it. You get fresh glycerin, and it should work fine.
Okay.
It's just if you have old stock laying around of it and gets a little water content in it, it's not going to work. And definitely test it before you go do your show.
Yeah, there's a lot of the guys, mainly in Bazaar, even earlier on, back in the 20s and 30s, did a lot of crazy stuff. That I've actually played around with some of those effects, and I got to say, they're really kind of cool.
They are. Yeah,
the one I'm looking at playing with now is, you might actually know something about it. Back about 1926, Robert Giselle, in one of his newsletters he published for the Anti-Fraud Squad, he talked about a ceramic plate that had 3 electromagnets magnets in it that were spaced in like a triangle pattern. And he would lay a nickel on the plate, okay, on a ceramic plate. Mm-hmm. And when he kicked the switch, the nickel would jump up and start spinning around.
Wow.
But I've never been able to get the electromagnetic thing quite right, so.
That's
true. But it seems like there's something there.
You've of course heard of Ed Verdi, haven't you?
Yeah.
I've fixed a lot of good stuff. Also Del Rey. I actually had Del Rey's table at one point.
Oh yeah?
It came through when I was living in Fresno. I actually burned out a big piece of electronics working on it because the voltage was so high on it. It went back into my equipment. I hooked up the wrong thing to burn it out. Because this thing had 120 volts worth of batteries inside of it. It was insane.
Wow.
All these batteries hooked together in series to make incredibly high voltages. So somebody was selling it to somebody else, and Hocus Pocus got a hold of it. So I got a hold of it to fix it because it wasn't working. It had like a garage door opener remote to make it work. It was crazy. So
yeah,
I ended up put a new remote system on it, changed all the batteries out, made it work new. It was amazing. Del Rey.
Now, what'd you fix on the Inverti stuff?
Well, his cubes. I fixed a bunch of his cubes. His cubes are amazing. And
there's remote control Lucite tables too that like roll across the stage.
Yeah. I also fixed a lot of his surprise box. He had this box that detects a card.
Yes.
And what's amazing about Inverti, you take apart an Inverti piece, you look at his circuit boards. He actually took a piece of copper-clad circuit board, went in there with a hacksaw, and cut grooves in it. And he physically soldered every transistor, every capacitor, every resistor on there and made his own receivers, own custom stuff. And it was amazing what he did. Completely custom. And it is pretty amazing stuff. He was a genius when it came to plastics. He loved to work in plexiglass, glue everything together.
Yeah.
He was such an artist.
Because I got to look at a couple of his tables that came through, the remote control ones. At one of the auctions. I was amazed by the work, actually. I mean, some of them had some cracks and dents in them, from being used, but it still worked.
Stuff works. Stuff works great still. Sometimes, something's out of adjustment, and Paul Gross at Hocus Pocus, he has me come in and fix it, or has me take it home to the workshop and put it back together. But it's really amazing when I get to look in there and see what he did. It's very...
Yeah, some of the old school stuff is just so incredibly well made, it's not even funny. Yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of the guys now even appreciate how much... Like the Inverti stuff, they don't understand why it's, so it's expensive, but how well made it was.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, using primitive technology. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, he was making these primitive metal detectors with coils of wire and 2 transistors, and it worked. And that's the amazing part.
It's amazing. I mean, it's really mind blowing when you look at it. You look at his electronics. It's amazing.
What's really funny though, I have his book. He has a book he published where he talks about his designs, and he has circuits in there about how he did everything. A a lot of those circuits are full of mistakes. It's really strange. A lot of stuff in there actually won't work. I don't know why that is.
Maybe he wasn't really one to tell everybody his secrets.
Yeah, keeping a few secrets there. Look at that going, that's not right.
Yeah, you're like, wait a minute. Oh, so that's not a resistor, that's a capacitor. Okay, now we're working. I've read several that are that way that are just, once you can figure out the electronic blueprint they were writing, oh my God.
I think he probably had all the electronics memorized in his mind, just.
Yeah, more than likely. You probably didn't know how to write a schematic either.
But his stuff sure worked. That was amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of that crazy old stuff that was just mind-blowing, really. And some of the plastics that they use, you can't get anymore. They don't even make them.
Yeah.
Like there's one that goes from black to clear, and you can't find it. It doesn't exist. I know. I've looked for years. That's a really cool peak box.
I've run into stuff at Hocus Pocus Run and Repair stuff that need to be fixed, and things that were made like 10 years ago. You can't get parts to fix even stuff made 10 years ago. It's already out.
Yep.
You can't even get it. You can't even track down a part number on stuff that you need to get. It's over. It's done.
Yeah, I've got a few boxes like that sitting around that are just, I know they're done until I find some salvage parts. And some of it was like, stuff they took out of when the Soviet Union fell and they sold off all their high-end electronic parts is what the guys used because it was cheap at the time. Well, it's not so cheap anymore. It's also very, very rare. So, you do a lot of woodwork too, right?
Yeah, I love doing woodwork. I was a logger for 10 years, and just this last week I fell and bucked up, cut up a fire with 6 trees. Do all kinds of woodwork.
Yeah.
Actually, I take an axe out and then split a piece of pine into shape, and then I take it up here and carve it into a wrapping hand. It's just firewood converted into a wrapping hand. Install the magnet in there, and shape it up.
Ah, very cool.
Pocket knife and a sander and a Dremel and get it looking like a hand. Age it.
Nice. Fascinating. Yeah, we got a shop up here I use all the time. It's got 2 CNCs, 3 lasers, and 3 or 4 table saws and panel saw.
That's the way Carl Farrell used to do it when he was building for Outlaw. He had a CNC machine. He would do these really fancy carvings for like the Spiritus and stuff. Really nice stuff. Everything I do is like hand carved. I go in there and do it by hand with a Dremel, and it's just rough and it's just old school. I don't have a CNC machine. All I have is like a scroll saw, table saw, and a drill press, and some hand tools. And I like staying very primitive, doing it in like a rough style.
Yeah, and we got like, panel sanders and specialty sanders, and there's probably 5 or 6 different types of sanders in that shop.
You can make stage illusions up there.
Oh, easily. I also know metal work, so I just don't have any metal equipment anymore. Get with the company. Used to build ornamental iron fences for a while. That was an interesting one. Oh. Back when I was in shape and I could lift it, the heavy weight. Yeah, it's kind of bizarre how long some of this actually takes to make, and
Yeah. If you go and you're building like 10 of something at one time, you can build 10 of them pretty quick because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, but when you build like 3 or 4 or 1, when you're building the first one, I don't think a lot of people understand there could be 100, 150 hours in that first one.
Yeah, the prototype, yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
what's the longest you've ever spent on a prototype?
Oh, my goodness. I spent a month, a couple hours a day working on a prototype, and it failed.
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah.
There's no end product. And I got to the point where, even if I were to actually build this person's only going to pay me like standard retail for it. And I'm probably working for pennies an hour here. I got to get out of this. So I learned my lesson. I don't do it anymore. You get people that want custom work, and they have this elaborate list of stuff they want done to it, and you're going to be prototyping. You're going to be breaking new ground. You're going to be building new stuff, and it's going to take forever to prototype it, and then they want to pay you bottom dollar for it. Not worth it.
Yeah, I've had a couple that failed that I designed and built up, and I can think of one I have about 750 hours in. It's still not right.
Yeah.
But I can't quit on it. I got to eventually finish it just so I, can complete it. Because after, my 6-7 months solid work on the thing, I got to finish this thing. And what's sad is, this thing is, I think retail on this thing is going to be like $40. It's pathetic.
Yeah.
And I'll end up selling like 5 or 10 of them. It's just, but it's one of those things where I started and I kind of try to make myself finish these projects.
Well, every time you do that, you learn. Don't do that again.
Yeah, that's usually what you learn, but you learn some other things on the way. That'll be helpful later on, but. But we're breaking new ground on some of the stuff, and to break new ground, you gotta donate the time to it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you have to reach out. And you have to push the boundaries and try to do something brand new you've never done before. And a lot of times, a lot of interesting things come out of that.
Yeah, and a lot of times, I had one that was probably 300 hours. Ridiculous design time on that thing. It works. It just, nobody wants it. Nobody's going to ever want it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, some of that I can think of, how many, I got one project I've been working on probably for, 5-6 years off and on. Affectionately titled The Nightmare.
One thing I've been very interested in lately has been the smells of things. You know how an old book smells? There's this weird smell about it, and you find these old antiques and they have a certain smell to them.
Yeah, I've got formulas for all that.
You got formulas for that?
Yeah, I got formulas for a lot of that. Yep.
There's this one chemical that old stuff has. Actually, it's the earth chemical. I think they call it geomane. I think that's the stuff. It comes.
Okay.
Get it. There's a chemical called geomane or something like that. It's the smell of earth. It's the smell of dirt. That's a neat smell. I've been trying to mix up different formulas, trying to come up with interesting smells to put on my wood when I ship it out of here to make it smell interesting. And,
yeah, there was a lady around here for a while that made an oil, and it was probably one of the greatest fragrant perfumes I've ever smelled. It smelled like a graveyard.
Oh yeah,
like with little hints of roses and misty morning graveyard. It was beautiful. I used up the last of it. Well, and I haven't seen her again, but if I see her, I'm going to grab some more of it because it smells exactly like an early morning graveyard.
Well, I found something that smells like dirt that I love. I spray that stuff. It smells like soil and dirt, and you mix a little bit of essential oils on there, a little lavender or something. A great smell.
Yeah, some of that is really pretty cool. There's other ones that make stuff smell old and musky. Kind of like an old like a book that's been sitting in a damn basement, or like a damn basement smell. Yeah. Fascinating stuff, actually.
The stuff I found is it's called Scent Storm, and the scent is earth. It's a cover scent that hunters use.
Okay.
They spray it around to hide their scent from deer, and you can buy this stuff on Amazon, and you get a big old spray bottle of it. You spray that stuff, it smells like dirt. It's just amazing.
And that's actually really good when you're doing you think you're doing something like an artifact that's been dug up, or, a grave type, freshly dug grave type voodoo thing or something. The smell has had a lot of ambience. I experienced some stuff here recently where a guy made a prop. It looks old, but it doesn't feel old and it doesn't smell old. From a few feet away, it looks right, but, the closer you get to it, the more off it looks.
I've heard stories where people would buy something of mine, it'd arrive and they open it up, and the smell would come out, whatever it is. Maybe I'm used to it. I don't know what it is, but the smell would come out, and the wife would say, "Get that thing out of here. Take that to the garage. That thing stinks." But the guy who got it loved it. He just stuck his nose in it, like, "Oh, this smells good."
Yeah, and this box the guy sent me, it's supposed to have wear, and it's all artificial wear, but the wear is all in the wrong places.
Oh.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Because on an old antique, like if you looked at an old blanket chest, right?
Yeah.
From the 1700s, the outside's worn, maybe the paint's, the Pennsylvania Dutch, the paint's flaking off. Mm-hmm. Where you handle the chest, where you would open it, grab it over and over and repeatedly open it, would be a little bit smoother because it'd be worn by, touch over 200 years. And then you'd open it up, and then the inside of the box would look brand new, because it's been basically a sealed environment. But underneath the box would be all, dusty and stuff. But if you pull out if it's got 4 drawers in it, and you pull out the second set of drawers, they're going to be a little lighter in color than the other drawer. Yeah. Because of the natural air integration that comes up through the box. Well, what he's done is interesting, but he's stained the whole thing. It just doesn't look right to me. So it just looks wrong.
What builders need to do is they need to, first of all, they need to watch Antiques Roadshow.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they need to go to a museum that has old stuff and stand there and stare at it. Take pictures. Like I went to the Railroad Museum in Sacramento, California here, and they had these old boxes and stuff from when they're building the train. They had old radio, electrical equipment, switch boxes and stuff, and I just stood there and stared at it, just took it in. That's how an old thing looks. That's how it ages, and memorize it for when I need to age something. And then when I build something, I will make it look absolutely pristine. I'll use old techniques to finish it, like shellac, and I'll finish it, make it gorgeous. And then I go after wire brushes, electric sander, a wire brush on the drill, and just tear it to pieces. And then I try to restore it and make it look better. Then I take a oily rag with beeswax, furniture wax, and mineral oil, and rub areas and try to get a finish onto it and make it look like a lot of hand oil got rubbed onto a certain part, like near the handle.
Yeah, and then if you use chalk, like blackboard chalk, and then rub over it, it'll give you that old dusty look. And also give you that white feel, that smoothed out feel over the wax. Feels great. But when somebody touches it, they go, "This is old." Yes, it is. Don't drop it.
I go to Home Depot and I get myself a bag of limestone. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I take the limestone and put it into a coffee grinder and grind it into a fine, dusty powder. That's the powder of the pyramids. That's what the pyramids are made out of, right? It's powder. And then I mix a little bit of kind of gray. I mix it with plaster of Paris, mix it around, and put it in a salt shaker. And just sprinkle it on, and then take sandpaper and grind it in. They try to clean it up with a cloth. It looks great. That's how you finish those.
Because if you look at an old prop, this is one of my biggest complaints with some of these newer guys. When you actually look at something that's supposed to be old, right? It should look old, feel old, and smell old.
Oh, yeah.
And mainly feel old. Like when I touch it, I should get that feeling like, I'm holding something that's at least 50 years old.
Yeah.
I'm not holding some, Brie-wax finish thing or Fromby's, furniture finisher or something. It's like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like when you walk into the antique stores and you smell that finish, that one they rub on to restore everything.
Yep.
Yep, I usually walk out. I don't want to see that on my props, I want my props to feel old. I don't mind the marks and the dings and the scratches, and like this guy's carried around for a while.
On some of my boxes, I'll take a stick of sandalwood incense and put it in the holder, put it in the box, and light it, and close the box, and just let the incense burn.
Yeah.
And that smoke gets into all the wood in there, and it just penetrates it. And you open it, and you have a weird smell.
Yeah, there's one called Temples of India.
Uh-huh.
It's an India temple incense. You just throw it in the box. You don't even have to light it. Actually, they say let this thing stay open for like a month before you burn it, and it reeks. But if you're trying to sell somebody it's an old product out of India, it's going to smell exactly like it. Kind of sweaty, musky, like if you went to an Indian temple,
Another good scent I like to use there's an essential oil called oil of bergamot. That's what they put in Earl Grey. They put it in Earl Grey tea. You get a drop of that, you put it in just a little half a drop in there. And that has a really interesting smell. It blends with all the rest of the smells.
Yeah, it blends a lot with a lot of the stains and varnishes and stuff, too. Mm-hmm. It gives it that really weird kind of smell like there's something not quite right with this thing. Yeah, there's a few of them. There's some of the tobacco oils that smell like tobacco.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting because after, a couple of days, they don't smell like tobacco anymore. They smell like old sweat.
You can get essential oil of cherry tobacco. That's what they can buy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird, though. It's like, it starts off smelling like, but now it smells kind of sweaty. Mm-hmm.
It does. It changes.
Almost an old sock smell. That was another one I found one day. I really loved that stuff. Old socks. Well, it was because of that old, dirty, nasty, wet basement kind of smell is what I was trying to, achieve. And it works really well on a lot of the old, the artificially aged books. Because a book that's been hit with that much sandpaper needs to be like wet, moldy, misty.
Oh, yeah.
Have signs of foxing. What were you going to say?
I took a trip over to the ghost town over here, Bodie, the ghost town, and saw a lot of old stuff there. That's amazing. A lot of stuff to take in there.
Yep.
And they had a museum there with all kinds of old personal effects, like a kid's toy box and his marbles and the little things kids would have. And that was just creepy looking at that. There's something weird about that, looking at that. And I turned around, and there was this gigantic book sitting on the table, and it said the Bodhi Curse Book. I went, what is that? And it's just weird. I go over, and it's just this thick book. It must have been like 4 or 5 inches thick. It was like a spiral binder, huge, big as you can get. And I opened it up, and there were letters. And you go through it, there's just letters for people writing Bodhi. And it was an apology for taking something. And they sent the item back with a letter of apology for taking it. Because when they took an item out of Bodhi and they took it home, they were absolutely cursed. Terrible things happened to them, including people dying. But just terrible bad luck. And they in their mind thought that it was this cursed object that did it. This the Bodhi curse was getting them. And they actually would return it, asking for forgiveness. And they have this curse book, and you can go online and you can find this. It's amazing, big story. So that whole idea would be great for an effect, for something bizarre to play with up there.
There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a site called hoax.org. Have you seen that?
Yes. Yeah,
that's a great site. I've read probably at least 400 of the 500 pages that are there.
So much of that could be turned into an effect, something known, some story out there like that.
Well, yeah, because, even like they were talking about, all these guys are putting out these Edgar Allan Poe effects. Well, Edgar Allan Poe ran 7 hoaxes in his lifetime.
Oh, yeah?
Why not do an effect on the hoaxes of Edgar Allan Poe? That's far more interesting than trying to recreate some tale that's been told 200 times.
Right. Because when you start out and you're telling everybody this is an Edgar Allan Poe story, it's fiction. It's not really scary because it's just a story.
Right.
But if it's the Curse of Bodhi and it's a real thing, then that can get creepy quick.
And that's why I say, to bring, when you do this kind of thing, you need to, because everybody's got a phone. They're going to Google anything you say now. It is a fact. So you want to mask all your fantasy story within some context of the reality. So if they check it, they have a lot of documentation on whatever that fakery is.
Yes.
Or the true story is, or whatever. And then you can play off it from there. And it makes it far more interesting. Because they start asking, was that real? I think it was. I bring a lot of haunted objects with me. That are real haunted objects to some of these events. Just because they're interesting,
Oh, yeah.
Like I got a little Chalkwar Carnival nun statue. It's creepy. Cries blood. It doesn't do it all the time, but it does cry blood. So it's just one of those weird, anomaly things that you can set up. They add a lot of ambience to the thing. And they check it, they can check out Carnival Chalkware, and it actually exists. But I don't understand some of the thinking on this stuff was just strange to me. It's just like it's too not based in some form of the truth is really pretty strange when you read into it.
Like I went to Chris Thiessen's very first Bizarre performance. I'm pretty sure it's his very first performance he ever did, Bizarre-wise. It was at the Rogue Festival of Fresno, first show he did. And he did this effect that was, it was psychic surgery, of all things. And he told this story about the Sin Eaters back in the Appalachian Mountains. And he told this elaborate story about it. It was creepy as all get out. And I go home and look it up, and there's a movie about it. There's all kinds of background on it, and it made it even more creepy, knowing that that's a real thing, He just absolutely nailed that perfectly when he presented that. It was amazing. He's like one of the best Bizarre performance I've ever seen anybody do was Chris's thing. Amazing.
Yeah, we had Chris on a couple episodes ago.
I heard that. I heard you guys talking.
Yeah, it was a fantastic call.
Yeah, we used to go to the Magic Club in Fresno together. Sit around and talk about stuff, yeah. He's got a very nice wife. She's very awesome. She really helps him with his magic and stuff, and totally supports him. She's a Ren Fair girl.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, it's just fascinating because that's why I like doing this whole PSicast thing, because we get to hear different approaches to this whole mess, which is fascinating. Like this has been highly interesting.
Yeah. A lot of times in magic, it's hard to find a magician that has a wife that supports him, that actually likes him doing the magic. My wife loves what I do. She's a big help. But like I go to Hocus Pocus, and they're having these massive estate sales where the wife has said you must get rid of all your magic, and they're just selling off these vast collections of stuff. And it's just so sad.
So sad. Because some of that stuff take a lifetime to find.
Yeah. Yeah, there's stacks of bizarre stuff from a magician in Los Angeles that had to sell his whole collection because he's getting married, and wife said it has to go.
Oh no! Yeah, terrible.
I got brought in because I had to identify everything. I was sorting out. This is Chris Schools. This is this is Gemini. This is my stuff. This is Outlaw. Try to figure out how everything went together. This is a Luna book test.
And there's a lot of good stuff there then.
It was a ton of stuff. It had like a Departed, a Dora, a Hobbs box, Darkboard, just all the good stuff. But I had an amazing collection.
Amazing. Now you're moving over to, I heard something about you going to Gemini Artifacts.
Yeah, I'm switching over to Gemini. Not having a good experience over at Outlaw, so I want to do things different now.
So what are you going to be building for Gemini? Is there any leaked information we can get for the listeners?
Well, Gemini, they have the rights to the Spiritus and the Forever cabinet already, so I'll be building those for them. And I have the rights to build Pandora.
That's yours.
So those are mine. Rick's still claiming a lot of stuff, so I can't build that. Rick says he has three new builders that are going to continue the product line over there, and they're going to keep building stuff.
Okay. So are you going to move Pandora to Gemini, or?
Yeah, I'm going to do Pandora over Gemini. I'm going to make a new version of the Pandora. I'm not completely happy with what I have been building. I want to make a new one. It's a little different. Instead of having like 5 different banks of sounds, I want to just have 2 banks of sounds. And a switch inside, where you go inside and you flip it to bank 1 or bank 2. And that's it. And you can physically change it to one or the other. And, of course, you can go inside of Pandora. You can switch out the memory card and put any sounds you want in there. You can make your own cards and put it in there. So I think 2 banks are fine. That's all you really need. Because
Pandora was originally, it was designed to be a thing that held all your other Outlaw Effect stuff. Yeah. And it holds a lot of it.
Yeah.
That was kind of a fun little project, because it started off as one thing, and then went to Rick, and then it went to you, and then it came back as what it is now.
And I have like 10 things that I've been working on for a long time that I'm going to slowly introduce over at the Gemini things that nobody's even heard of yet.
Cool. So they got that to look forward to. That's good.
Yeah, and the goal is I build a whole bunch of them at once. I build like 10 of them at once, ship them back there. They have them in stock. They keep track of how many are in stock. Somebody orders something, it gets shipped right out. And when they run out, it's sold out. That's the way it should work.
Yeah, because I remember on Pandora, I think you were building around Christmas time. That had to be a nightmare.
Yeah, and right now, people, if they order something from Outlaw, they don't know when they're going to get it. Some people have been waiting for years for stuff with Outlaw. There's a huge number of people waiting for stuff. I don't even know if they're going to get it at this point. I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know all what's going on. I'm kind of in the dark sometimes with them.
Huh. So now you're going to build them and say there'll be 10 available. They can buy the 10, and then you'll build another 10 or whatever. And then...
Yeah. Just get them in stock. Build something else. Get them in stock. And just and it's much more efficient that way. I could build 10 at the same amount of time. I can build 5 one at a time slowly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So much more efficient. And plus, working with Gemini, I get to call the shots. I get to do all the design. I can do it any way I want, make it exactly the way I want it, do the instructions, and be happy with it. Working with Outlaw, I had to do exactly what Rick wanted. Sometimes I completely didn't agree with what he wanted to do. I thought it was just an absolute nightmare. Like, he came out with this thing called the toy box. I thought it was terrible, awful design. But he went ahead and made it anyway, and I thought it was just terrible. It's still terrible. I think it's one of the worst things ever made in Magic, or by Outlaw, at least. Very unhappy with the thing. It didn't do what it was supposed to do, and it was very expensive.
Yeah. Some of this stuff was kind of pricey. And some of it I really liked. See, I was a big fan of the Inquisitor.
Yeah.
And then somebody put electronics in it.
Inquisitor is a great idea. Very psychological effect. It's very cool.
Yeah, I've been one of the original ones because I like the idea of the psychological effect.
Yeah.
Because I think just in that case alone, in that particular case, it works well. It's creepy enough, and it doesn't really need any extra, weirdness. That was just my opinion on that one.
Yeah, one thing I love doing is I like having really creepy things, really bizarre, strange, creepy stuff laying around. It's odd, and it's not gimmicked in any way. It's just what it is. What you see is what it is. It's just weird. Then I'll have a perfectly ordinary, common item that's gimmicked to the hilt.
Yep.
All the heat's on the weird thing.
Yep. All the heat's on the weird thing. The ordinary thing is pretty much
but the
most gimmick thing on the stage.
The card table is just covered in coils and all kinds of insanity, but underneath you don't know what's going on in it. But the weird statue, that's perfectly ordinary. Like
perfectly ordinary, doesn't do anything. But yet you actually find out those things actually do quite a bit. Now I got a question. This is always bothered me. Let me see if you have a proper answer for it. So, like with something like the Hobbs box or something, right?
Yeah.
I open the box up, I take the object out of the box, and I sit it on the box.
Yeah.
That just seems unnatural to me. Why would I sit it next to the box and then have it fall over? Like, if I'm pulling stuff out of the box, I'm going to sit next to the box as I'm pulling the stuff out.
Well, you could take stuff out of the box and put it on the table, and you want to put it at a higher place so everybody could see it, so you put it on top of the box.
Okay.
I've seen effects where they have a book that's gimmicked, like the bending wine glass.
Yeah.
And you have a bunch of books laying around on the table, and you start stacking books, and you put your gimmick books on top of the stack, put your wine glass up there. You're just stacking books so that people can see better.
That makes sense.
And
except when you're working in a show of 20 people in a small room.
Yeah, then it's ridiculous. It's better to have the whole table gimmick then.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think. Yeah.
Or have a bell that can ring by itself that doesn't need a box.
Yeah, I got one of those.
Yeah, it is kind of weird doing that with the house box. It's not natural.
It just seems odd because it's like, when you get a box, it makes a pretty good close-up case. You open it up, you pull all your props from the box, and you're doing things with those, and then all of a sudden you sit this thing on the box. It just always seemed like an unnatural action to me for some reason. Because why wouldn't I sit it on my close-up table or the other table I brought that sits on the close-up table? My performance pad on it or whatever, like a gimmick performance pad that's got a big honking magnet in it or something,
One thing I would love to build on my list is a close-up table. So I was thinking about building a close-up table with coils in it, with a velvet cover. It covers it, and it has little legs on it that it's lifted off the table like maybe 2 or 3 inches up. It has these rails on it, so it's lifted. Has a cover on it, and you could do your close-up stuff on this table. And if you take the velvet cover off, on the surface of this table is like a table of working, a magic circle.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And then you could use that magic circle for some type of weird ceremony or something.
Yeah, that'd be excellent, actually.
But if you throw the velvet cover on, it's a close-up table. You do, do some coin work or something.
Yeah, because we built one antique table. It was an antique close-up case. It was kind of big, 24 inches by 18 or something. Sits on a table with a big honking magnet in it for PK effect, and that was owned. That one went to Bob Cassidy, actually. It was like the only one we ever sold of that. That thing was well built. It took like a week to build. But yeah, I just always seem like every time I've seen some of the stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that almost seems unnatural. Why would you do that?
Yeah,
but I think the one big problem I saw, that's why I came up with the idea of Pandora, but one of the big problems I saw was, especially in Bizarre Magic, they got all these great props, but they have nothing to put them in.
Yeah.
You know, there was at the time there was nothing to put the props in, which never made any sense to me. You know, because you can use one of the book tests and some of the other stuff, or even like Gemini stuff too. You know, I think there needs to be a bizarre close-up case, even if that case doesn't do anything. You know, other than hold your bizarre stuff that all looks like the same stuff. You know.
Just something to hold it all. Yeah.
Yeah, some context. You know, just not too big, not too small, but something to hold like most of a show. Yeah. Kind of like the bizarrest briefcase or something. You know, something that's got a story to it. It has to have some kind of like strange, bizarre tale or story to it.
That's a very good idea, actually. That would be really neat.
Because that was the original concept of Pandora, was a box that, well, it was a haunted box. You know, it had a haunted tale with it. Because, you know, the candles the small candle would be found inside the box that was from the sealed box, and that's usually an indication that something's not right. And then you unleash a ghost in their place.
Yeah. Just the thing is, Pandora's kind of a small box. Might need a little bit bigger box, though.
Yeah, well, originally Pandora started off, as a shipping crate, the mysterious shipping crate that gets shipped to the gig. That was an interesting. I don't know if you saw the original. Did you see the original script on that?
The script for what?
Pandora.
Pandora?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I read that. Yeah, I just I wrote the instructions on how to use it and all that, but I didn't write a script for it.
Okay.
Do you know who wrote the script? Was it?
Yeah, there was the original prospectus I sent to, when I created the concept for Pandora, I gave it over to Rick, and I guess he gave it to you, but
you wrote the script.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was an original document that was sent out years ago. I'll see if I still have it. I'll send it to you. That way you at least have the idea, the historical notes on it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think mental, not only that, not only bizarre magic, but just general mentalism needs a proper close-up case.
Do you like the size of the Pandora? Do you think it should be bigger?
No, I thought the size of Pandora was fine. Mm-hmm. Because, it was designed to hold, it'd hold ash, It wouldn't hold anything really big. But you'd have, a book in there, or maybe one of the Hobbes books, the Asylum books,
Yep.
A relic, and you mix it. The idea was to have a bunch of objects that created a story, but originally when I designed it, it was interesting. You have the box. You're set up to do a show, wherever, a small venue or whatever. You mail a package to them anonymously that's addressed to you, and then you open this cardboard box, and inside you find Pandora. But it's sealed. You don't know what it is. You know what I'm saying? This is right before the show actually opens, so you're actually doing the show with that instead of the stuff you set up. Because you get to explore the contents of the box together, but you don't know anything about the box. Your audience doesn't know anything about the box. But everybody's curious what's in this package. And then at the end, it's apparently let off a ghost into the room, which creates a haunted venue.
Okay.
If it's done right, what happens is at the coffee shop now becomes haunted with a ghost that you accidentally left behind. So then you can go back later and do seances and stuff to communicate with the ghost that you accidentally left behind.
So is there a note or some explanation inside that box explaining what's going on? How do you figure out there's a ghost in there?
Well, no, because all the strange objects that are found in the box lead to a ghost story, but nobody really knows the whole aspect of the ghost story.
Okay.
So you have bits of random stuff in there, there's an old key in there. Could be a haunted key, Could be a relic, a scorpion, a book from an insane asylum. So it tells a story, but it doesn't actually give the complete story. So there's like this mystery wrapped in a mystery inside of the enigma kind of thing, where you're exploring the objects. Like the idea of the haunted key was, if you use the Ray Carlisle method, you go, here, hold on to that for a minute, and you have somebody put out their hand, you place it in their hand, don't move your hand, as you're going through the other box and the key flips over. In their hand. See what I mean?
Yeah. You could have a...
So it gets creepier as it goes because nobody knows the story. Not even the performer. So it was an idea to explore with, the audience, a mysterious object kind of thing as it unfolds. So each person will start getting their own conception of what's going on, which is a natural human trait, right?
Yes.
Which makes the story, as it unfolds, even though it's kind of loosely told, like there's an old insane asylum book, I wonder if this is the person. Oh, here's a diary of a kid written by a psychologist. What's going on here? The story starts to unfold, but everybody's trying to figure out the mystery of the box, and there's weird things keep happening. And it all looks very, very real. See what I'm saying?
And everybody's used to seeing unboxing videos on YouTube by now, so it's kind of...
Yeah, it's kind of a debug box type thing.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
But you never reveal the story. There is no story. It's just experimenting with these objects. And that becomes the show. So the show is a lead-in to random exploration.
At the end of the show, you're just in the dark as everybody else. You don't know what you just experienced. It was weird, but not sure what it was.
Except there was paranormal activity.
Was it?
Lots of it.
What happened to your original script?
I probably still have it somewhere.
Okay. Because I don't think Outlaw ever published it, did they? They didn't.
No, I don't think they did either. I gave it to him. I said, here, it's yours. Play with it.
Oh, boy.
Well, that was because, Gary said, you should do something with Outlaw. I'm like, okay, I'll do something with Outlaw, if you say so. Gary Chris, creator of Ash and the yearbook.
Yeah.
Which is finally starting to catch on how creepy that thing actually is. Because yearbook was a nice idea, too, because you lay the book on the coffee table at the house, people come over, they start looking at the book, and it gets creepier and creepier.
Yeah. There's a couple other creepy books you can get, too, that you can get by Amazon on your there's one, I think it's Shattered Air. It's a Halloween picture book. It's very strange.
Yeah, but there was an idea there that I always was intrigued by. It's called the random exploration of mysterious objects.
Well, you could have a collection of weird books on your coffee table. That would be neat to have like 5 or 6 very strange books there.
But somebody's going to pick up one of them.
Your book's among them, of course.
Yeah, but there's something about exploring a mystery with an audience, right? That you're kind of privy to because somebody sent you this weird object, but you don't really know what this weird object is, and you got to kind of figure it out together. And some of it's just random pieces thrown in that doesn't make any sense. So there's always these objects that are undiscovered. Nobody really knows what those objects are or what they do, or why they're even there. There's a lot of mystery there.
I got a crazy idea. What if you had a box on the table, Pandora box or something like a box on the table, or a bell jar with something in it on your coffee table, and you had like a Time Life book about the mysterious or something, and it's sitting next to it. You say, "You see that object there? I actually found that in this Time Life book. This is one of. Let me show you." You open it up, you have it bookmarked, and there it is. You have a replica of it or something. It's just something bizarre.
Yeah,
that'd be neat.
But that's the kind of thing where you have a mysterious box that's literally mailed to you at a show, in advance. But that is the entire show. Then you go in and you set up your whole show. But you're not going to use any of the stuff you just set up because what will happen is it's going to take probably an hour to an hour and a half to explore the contents of this box with the audience. And that becomes the show.
It'd be funny if you go to open the box, you open it and it's empty. Oh.
Yeah. But you don't know what's in the box. You know what I'm saying?
this is something I would do. I have a big build-up and talk about the mystery of the box, and on you open it and it's empty. Oh.
Well, you could do that too with Pandora, and then you close and you go on to do some other things, and it starts making weird noises.
Yeah, but if you did that, people would say, "Oh, he is flying by the seat of his pants. Who knows what's going to happen next?" You messed up.
Yeah.
Like the one really cool thing I've seen Lance Burton do. I went to a show in Vegas. Lance Burton, he's amazing. He would open the show, and in the show he has these things that are kind of scary. He has this like a sword fight and all kinds of craziness. It looks dangerous, right? But at the very beginning of the show, he's making doves appear. He's making candles appear. He has a candle holder, a candelabra of candles, like 6 candles, and he's making candles appear, putting them in the holder, right? He drops one on the floor. You know, and you're watching the show. Oh, well, he messed up. He dropped one. He picks it up and puts it and smiles and puts it and keeps going. But you see a show again, he drops it again, same spot. You see a video on TV of him doing that act, he drops the candle on TV. He always drops the candle. And I looked into it. Why is he always dropping the candle? Why is he doing it? Well, he does it at the very beginning to remind you that he's human and he can screw up. And it introduces subconsciously a sense of danger that later on when he starts playing with knives and doing dangerous stuff, he could mess up. He dropped that candle. You know, you don't remember that, but your brain does.
Yeah, your brain does.
Because I didn't get it. I saw that and I didn't get it. But when I started noticing he kept doing it over and over again, oh, there's something up here. I love that. I love it when a mentalist will do something and mess up to show that, you know, there's an element of it's real. It's like it's something real is going on because it doesn't always work. If it always worked, it'd be magic.
Right. And that's what I liked about the original. I mean, the original concept of the Pandora thing was just a weird thing that shows up out of nowhere, you know. And you can think about it as a performer. If you got a package delivered to you at a show, you would want to open it up, you know.
Oh yeah.
But you're at the show, so you got to set up your show. So you set up your entire show before you open the package. And then it's bothering you, and they can see it's kind of there's package laying on the table, and nobody knows what it is as they're walking in to sit down, and the package is spot, and they're like, okay, I got to open this. Hang on 1 second. You start speaking to the audience and go right into it, you know. Now everything else I bought, I'm just showing. It's background. It's just wallpaper for the set decoration for the show. Kind of a sneaky idea.
I have ordered parts for building magic effects before, and I've ordered them from like the Ukraine and from Russia, and I get stuff from over there really cheap. Okay, these packages come to me, and sometimes they are in nasty cardboard that looks just old for some reason and moldy and beat up, and it has string tied on it, and it has these strange stamps in the Cyrillic alphabet, and you look at it and go, oh my God, that's weird. And I will carefully cut those open and save them because they're just interesting. You can take something like that, slide a Pandora in it, and you got a story.
And you don't know the conclusion of it. See, there's no conclusion to the story.
Yeah.
And I like that idea. I've always liked that idea.
I would also throw things into the Pandora if I was doing that. I'd throw things in there that could not be explained and don't make any sense at all. That you could
somehow those unexplained objects become connected to the story.
But you don't know how.
You don't know how, but they become connected just because they are there.
They're there, but you have something that just makes no sense. Like, why is this there? There's a pair of eyeglasses in here. What's it doing? I don't know.
Yeah, a pair of old eyeglasses, an old chain, a piece of fabric,
a matchbook, and it's something. Just strange.
But they may or may not have anything to do with the story.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no letter, there's no instruction, there's just stuff.
I'm inspired.
Which was sealed in the box.
I'm inspired to go make a couple more creepy boxes that aren't Pandoras. There's something completely different, just for putting stuff in.
Yeah,
not
I would
even
love that.
Just make them weird. Make stuff that looks like 150 years old. It just doesn't look right.
Yeah, and really, the incantation on the front of it. There's supposed to be a bunch of symbols on there, the strange symbols that didn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then it became the Masonic symbol or whatever. You know, there was a lot of weird stuff about that thing. You would just tell a story without ever having a conclusion. I like the open-ended story. You know, because as a bizarre magician, what are we presenting? We're presenting a mystery most of the time. Right?
That is really neat, yeah.
So why would you have a mystery that has a conclusion?
Yeah, if you do it that way, you're experiencing the entire thing with the audience. You're together. You're one experiencing this thing together. You're not playing tricks on them. You're not trying to fool them.
No, but in the meantime, you are fooling them occasionally. I mean, occasionally they get fooled.
They don't know that. You're with them. You're on the same team. You're on the same side. You're exploring this weirdness together, and
that's weirdness. That's what bizarre magicians, the ones I've met anyway, tend to live for.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just weirdness. Nobody can explain any of that.
Yeah.
And then but you have to have one tell. The key was the one tell. Remember the wax that was sealed on the lock, the pin for Pandora, but the candle was half burnt inside the box. Well, that relates to an old story of, you know, this box was sealed by black magic.
Oh, that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the one, because it doesn't dawn on you at first, you know, but by the end you're like, oh, no, I did not. I just think I let something out. I probably shouldn't have. Because then you'll suddenly remember the story, and that kind of concludes it, but now the place is haunted.
Yeah.
Because how many times have you been to a venue that could use a ghost? So you go back and perform there again.
Wonder if you could start a business of providing ghosts, you know, haunting.
That's pretty much the idea, yeah. Because most of these sites and stuff, like one down here, there's a coffee shop. Well, actually, there's a hospital. It's built on top of an old Catholic cemetery. But on down the way, they had a little place you can go in and get something to eat. It's built on an old homeless cemetery they just tore up and threw away.
Uh-huh.
I don't even know if they moved the bodies.
You show up with this box of bottles that have labels on them of different ghosts you've captured with a cork in them, sealed in wax. And you take the ghost and release it.
Yeah.
You collect your fee. You install the ghost. You're ghost installers.
But I think the idea of the box, I mean, the idea of the box itself is a powerful tool when used as something mysterious. Like, I usually don't let people see inside of my boxes when I'm performing. Like, if I take something out of a box, I won't let them see inside it, because I think that adds a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I picked that up watching some Christian Casual tapes. Because he never lets them see inside the box either. Stuff keeps coming out of the box, but nobody ever knows if that's everything in the box. You know, there's always that one piece in the box that could be in there that you didn't see, which is bothersome. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
or the mysterious object that was just left on the table and nobody talked about. Mm-hmm.
My magic show, it's like a 2.5-foot high box that I set down vertically on a table, and it opens right to left, and only I can see behind what's in it. It's like a suitcase you open on its side.
Yeah.
Everything's back there. And the audience has nothing but an open box. They see nothing but the hinges on the bottom of this box. They can't see in it. And then I have a whole bunch of other really old, creepy boxes. I make these nice, big, like, treasure chest-sized boxes, and I lay them around. So when the show starts, you're just staring at a bunch of boxes. And
exactly.
I take out one thing and do something with that one thing, and then it goes away back in the box. And I bring up the second thing. So there's always a center of attention.
Yeah, it's a weird box. The box never got open. What's in it?
Oh, have you ever seen clips of Todd Robbins' show? He did a show on Broadway called Play Dead.
Yeah.
That show, he had all these boxes. He had cardboard boxes stacked up all over the place, and they had people's names on them. They're like the personal belongings of people who had died or something. That was amazing, because he would open them up and tell a story from each of these boxes.
Yeah, that's the one you did with Teller.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Teller and him. Teller, I wrote the script, I think, on that. They worked together.
Yeah, it was Yeah, I've heard about the show. I knew people had seen the show, and they gave me full details of the show. It was pretty amazing. This part of the show is done in complete darkness.
No, not in complete darkness. Just semi-dark. He's dark as possible. He starts out in a white suit and ends up covered in blood.
Yeah, that's it. There's only two suits. They have this fake blood that washes right out. Interesting stuff. Yeah, but I think Bizarre Magic needs a proper close-up case.
It does.
It actually needs like three of them, 3 different styles. You think about how much stuff the Bizarre guys own, I mean, Bizarre guys are worse than Mentalist in buying widgets.
They do.
And now here's the other thing with Pandora, the original idea.
Yeah.
You bought a lot of widgets that you've never used. Because they don't fit into your shell. Right?
Right.
We got boxes of these things. Well, with Pandora, you can take the widget and put it into the mysterious box and then pull it out. And maybe use it, maybe not, but it's at least there or it's been set up as set decoration, so you're actually doing something with them. Even if you don't use them. Like some of the old broken magic boxes I have could be set up as set direction. Because I'm not going to use any of that stuff, but I'm still pulling it and actually using it for something. I'm getting an ambience effect out of it. Set decoration or something, something, anything, really. When the box was $700, I got to use it for something.
Boxes add so much to the presentation because you start with stuff in the box. They want to know what's in the box. What's in the box, And it adds the mystery. It makes it neat. It focuses the show better.
Yeah, and that's why the Pandora thing, because when you pull out the strange objects in the box, everybody's wondering what this stuff is anyway. Because you're wondering what it is, they're wondering what it is, and then you start doing a show with that. Freeform, no scripts. Right?
Right.
Because and then Ash becomes creepy, because there's a pair of old glasses, some torn clothing. If you ever looked at any of the, or maybe a couple old seance or silent pictures of some mentally disturbed patient in a corner, all you got to do is convey that idea, but you don't have to say, what is this? A photo of, that's kind of creepy, and hand it out to the audience. The audience is going to start telling their own story. Now, the nice thing about it is each one of those is going to have a different experience. That they're going to tell to their friends the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find that script and send it over to you, or the original drafts on those things. I wrote a couple of different ones. I'll see if I can send them to you. That way we can pack them with Pandora. We send a PDF or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just to give them some other thoughts and ideas on.
There's a lot of stuff that never gets passed on to me through Outlaw. It just kind of ends up somewhere else. I never see it.
I can see that happening. I mean, I can see that happening with any magic deal, really.
Yeah.
Like our buddies at Stevens are always so busy.
Yeah, they're just...
you just forget stuff. He's like, I got 50,000 things to do in 4 hours. And for some reason, Mark manages to get most of them done, except, return the phone call and return this and minor stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's an interesting concept there. Just to explore an idea. And you can add electronics to it for the kicker,
Oh, yeah, but it doesn't need it at all. But
it doesn't necessarily need it. But what it needs is a proper box. That's where you start with. A proper concept for a box.
Yeah, start with some proper boxes and work from there.
And, if I got mailed a creepy old box at a show, I would eventually explore it,
Yeah, we should make.
I probably, and I did. I mean, the original prototypes, which were made out of like press board or particle board and big screws. I had to go to my toolkit, pull out a screwdriver from the original one, and just pull out these artifacts. But it was a good show. But it didn't look anything like what I set up to do. Yeah. That was the hook. It's kind of fun, actually. We don't have any scripts.
Made up some old boxes, made a couple old boxes, filled up with some really creepy stuff, and just randomly mailed it to somebody.
Exactly.
Mail it to a no-name Jones, see what happens.
But think of what would come out of that, though.
Yeah.
Because they would be thinking, what is this? And then they do some, searches on some of the stuff. They start putting two and two together. It leads to a black magic spell that sealed up a ghost, and now the place is haunted because they let the ghost out of the box.
Yeah.
And then what's going to happen after that? Well, that's the effect. I mean, that's out of Toronto, University of Toronto. Guy carried an experiment with creating ghosts. You know the one I'm talking about?
The green ghost?
No, the Frank. I think we call him Frank. Frank's experiment.
Frank's box?
No. This was an early experiment conducted at the University of Toronto. A group of people got together and said, "Can we create a ghost?"
You talking about
Philip. That's it.
Yeah, I know.
The Philip experiment.
Philip's a friend of mine. Yeah, I know Philip.
Yeah, the Philip experiment. Can we create a ghost? And then all of a sudden, about a year later, they started having paranormal activity all over the college.
Well, you could have like a Philip box with all the goodness in it, and you'd start the story. That's the beginning. It's a storyteller's box, is what it is. No.
Yeah.
The bizarreness is just the box and the stuff in it. You weave the story, then it could be a running theme. Yeah. You go back and weird stuff. The stuff happens later.
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, exactly. Because in the meantime, you're gone. Stuff is still happening. Like there's a couple haunted coffee shops now.
That is fun. That is really fun. You could have oh man. It's a great idea.
Yeah. I mean that was the idea, but you have to have the proper box to start it with. The more like I was doing a museum exhibit type thing, so it looked like a museum, kind of like a mock museum shipping crate, Mm-hmm. And then you open that up, and inside that would be all the weird junk. Because I'm somewhat of a historian, and I do occasionally do lectures at museums and stuff, so it wouldn't be uncommon for somebody to actually, send me some weird artifacts or something. Those are the premise of the whole thing, But they don't see that in the front. They expect one show, and then they actually get something even far more interesting. That just leaves more questions than it does have answers, But it would take somebody with like the type of woodworking you do to make the box.
Yeah, make a really nice box. I'll go and I'll study some older designs and look at stuff. Maybe even buy some older antiques and just look how they're made and study them and figure out and it's cool.
Because it has to be like a vintage box. It doesn't have to be necessarily more than like 40 years old, Uh-huh. Let's say it came out of the 60s. It was new in the 60s, but like a 60s milk crate or fruit crate kind of thing, I mean, it doesn't really need to be that old. It just needs to have some age to it. Where somebody like put something in the box, sealed it up, and then shipped it out. But none of the notes, if there's a note in there, it doesn't make any sense. It's in some kind of like coded language that nobody can read, or something odd. Maybe the note's written backwards in mirror language. Somebody in the audience goes, "Hey, maybe it's a mirror language." They pull out a compact and start reading this weird note, in the reflection in the mirror. There's all kinds of possibilities there.
Yeah.
And what's nice about the box idea is the show could be repeated in a completely different fashion. with different objects. Change the objects. Think about it. If you took 10 or 15 objects, small objects, out of like your junk drawer, added them to one of the book tests like Luna, a Saint and Salem's or something like that, packed that into a box and shipped it to somebody, what are they going to think? Or like one of the doppelgangers. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It gets really creepy fast. And you don't have to say a word about what it actually is. You just explore with your audience, and it becomes really interactive. Mainly for like a close-up type presentation, probably. I don't know if I do it on stage, but for like close-up parlor rooms, where I usually am, perfect. Plus, it's something like for me, I could work in like a ghost thing, a seance thing. I could work it as a metaphysical lecture.
How do you carry your props now?
In a box. I got one box that's shaped as a gold pyramid, a really cool box. And I got a couple other small boxes I carry. And most of the props I use are actually just that. They're real props. They're not, most of them aren't even gimmicked.
What's interesting, I look around my workshop and I have like 6 different boxes that I built. And they have brass works on them. They have hinges on them. Some of them are like 16 by 12 by 12, But all those boxes, they have my show in them. They have my different shows. They're all in these boxes sitting there. That's how I store them. And they're like ready to go. You can just pick up one of these boxes and you're ready to do some weird stuff.
Yeah, I can pick up one case and work for about 7 hours out of it. Then there's not a gimmick in the thing. But each of the effects, like holy relics and Buddhist relics and all kinds of stuff in there. Just weird stuff. And I can just work for days off of that. I love that box. But yeah, that's the thing, though. I mean, I just think Bizarre Magic needs a box. It needs its own brand box. I mean, for a close-up. They can hold coins or relics or pendulums and all this kind of stuff.
One big criticism of Bizarre Magic that Bizarres have always gotten is they're long-winded and they tell a lot of stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But think about the idea that you're telling a lot of stories relating relationships to these weird objects are coming out that nobody knows about.
Huh?
Except you apparently know something because it was sent to you.
I think the problem with Bizarre magicians telling weird stories and being long-winded is their stories aren't interesting. That's probably A lot of times it's just a story that is very thin premise just to get to the effect, just to get there, and the audience knows that it's just a line. It's nothing to it. It's just empty. It's not that interesting if it's not believable, and there's no background. There's no meat there,
Right.
But there's people that do storytelling. They'll go out into the library circuit and they'll tell a story, and they're very good at it.
Oh yeah. Now, what's his name? Silverman's really good at it too.
Yeah.
I've seen some of his artists
telling stories. If they do it right, it's really good. Like Eugene Berger can tell a story. Jeff McBride can tell a really good story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's wonderful. I just sit around and listen to stories with those guys. They're good.
Yeah, but I like the idea of having a box that pulls stuff out, and then the stuff I'm pulling out, I can actually hand to people.
But do you want to? Is it safe?
Well, it's safe, but you don't know. I mean, you're experimenting,
Like, we're trying to determine if this is actually a haunted object or not? Yeah. Do you have a process? Do you have a process to determine if an object is haunted or not? How do you tell? Go and feel? Or good question.
Just paranormal activity happening, usually. I did put out a manuscript on, I don't think it ever got published. I think I printed one copy. It was how to tell haunted objects, or how to hunt for haunted objects in a antique mall using a hang compass technique. It's a bizarre one, actually.
I've gone into antique stores, and I some objects just totally creep me out. You stare at them like, there's something wrong there. It's just something not right. Even thrift stores. I go to a thrift store. Something just like this. That's not right. This, you know, it's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's like there's some bad mojo surrounding that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy that. I don't feel right about that. That's creeping me out. I'm gonna buy it.
I do the same. I think every bazaarist in the country does the same thing, except most of the stuff that creeps them out doesn't creep me out.
Oh, and I tell you, if the bazaarist is truly creeped out himself while performing, the show is much better.
Yeah, or like, you know, the thing, well, I mean, you can get, there's devices now you can get to do weird stuff. I don't want to give a lot of those away, but there's stuff out there that was made that does weird stuff and makes people feel weird at different points. You know, when you combine some of this stuff with elf technology, it's pretty impressive what you can get away with. But yeah, this has been a great Psycast.
One of the weirdest things I've done that creep people out is I took some paper and I smeared something. I don't remember quite what it was. I think it was a little bit of honey and some tobacco. Honey and tobacco, yeah. I put a piece of paper. I wrapped it around the end of a soldering iron and stuck it in a metal can, you know, when I was doing the show. And while I was getting stuff out of a box, I plugged the soldering iron in and went back and sat down. I was doing this stuff, and the smell started filling the room. It was just bizarre. Just this odor started going everywhere. That was a neat effect.
It reminds me of when I saw Doug Henning on stage. The fog that rolls off the stage and starts coming towards you.
Uh-huh.
And he said the most unusual line as it hits about the second or third row. And it smells like strawberries. I'm in like the seventh row. When he got back to me, the smoke actually smelled like strawberries.
Yeah.
Because he used strawberry-scented smoke. I mean, it was just weird, man.
You can the smoke fluid. It's a glycerin water solution. You can put scent in there. You can make anything you want.
Yeah. It was just I saw Henning doing. And later I talked to one of his main consultants, Charlie Reynolds. I used to talk to him when I was a kid. That man named more than I'm ever going to know. Yeah, just bizarre stuff. But I really do think bizarrists need their own non-gimmicked close-up box. They can be used for anything, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So they can put their toys in. I mean, think about the toys. Just the toys in Bizarre Magic alone are interesting enough to put in a box and not even tell them where you got it or anything else and pull it out and it's interesting. I mean, look at the stuff that these guys have made over the years. From Charles Cameron to Brother Shadow, Tony Andruzzi, all the way to the newer guys. This is the article. The object itself is interesting. I mean, it's an interesting looking thing, even without a story.
Yeah.
And the fact that it does stuff is even cooler, you know? Yeah, that's my thoughts on Bizarre. Bizarre needs a good close-up case.
Certainly does.
And just because, you know, a lot of it's already bought way too much of this stuff anyway. I mean, like, what was the old effect? Nosferatu's nail?
Yeah.
The one that came out in a little tin?
Yeah.
With a nail inside of it, and, you put the stuff on the thing that burns up or whatever? Does like a smoking finger type thing?
I remember that.
Yeah, but if that was just in the box, you know what I'm saying? There's a little metal container, and then inside that's a nail. That's just interesting. What is this thing, you know? And then your fingers start smoking or something. You know, it's just weird.
Now, I made a smoking cross for Outlaw. It hangs on the wall, and smoke starts coming out of it. I could take one.
Oh, there you go.
I could take a smoking device, though. I could put it inside of a box. So
yeah.
that when you open the box, a puff of smoke comes out. And it could be scented smoke.
Oh, that'd be freaky. Or can you remote control trigger that?
Yeah, remote control it if you want. Yeah. Or you could
So,
have it where you touch a certain contacts on the box and it starts up. So
yeah, like the old like spirit lamps. You push the mail in.
Or like the chiller thermometer. You touch 2 screws on that, it activates the 3-minute timer. There's no remote.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So if you pulled out everything in the box, you close the box, and a puff of smoke starts appearing out of the box. That'd be great.
And you have it where the box is kind of loose where smoke can drift out. Like, what is going on?
But that would be the end, like, oops, I screwed up. Sorry, folks. I think I left you with a ghost. And that would sell it right there.
Yeah. Well,
and that's why the box would be, like, sealed with a candle wax all the way around, because when you break the seal, the candle wax would cover those, like, gap areas.
Yeah. If you break all that, then it starts leaking.
Yeah, and then, at the end, you accidentally shut the lid and it starts leaking smoke. You're like, oops. The evil laughter emerges. Yeah, but there's all kinds of, like, weird little nuances that I think could be done. But I do think by far, when you look at bizarre magic and where it's come from, the days of, like, early days of invocation, even back then, there was hints of the box.
Oh, yeah.
Like, a lot of guys had different boxes, but they would always talk about, like, this one mysterious box that nobody was ever seen. You remember that?
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, I was talking to some old bizarrists up here in Ohio, and they would always talk about this mysterious box that would just do weird things. But it's almost like, I teleported some greyhounds, like the Uri Geller story, I think. But it's like this mysterious prop that never existed, And they would just sometimes refer to it as the box.
Well, get the specs on it, I'll go build one.
Yeah, that's what I said, But I think it's just, but bizarrists, I think, need a box just to pull stuff. Like kind of like show close-up case that's not terribly old, like maybe the stuff that's inside it's even older, That adds a lot of validity.
Yeah.
I noticed that was a problem with one show I saw. Everything he had was like 200 or 300 years old, and none of it made any sense. Think about it. If an object's been traveling through time for a couple hundred years, it may be in one bag at one moment, and then it may be in a box in another moment, and then all that stuff's going to be jumbled up through time, to present day.
Yeah. Something 1,000 years old could end up in like a box that belonged to a university in the 60s, found it and captured it and put it in the box. So it's in a university box, a research box. But
exactly.
Much older. That's a good way of doing it. You have a university box, and it's like a archaeological tag on it. It's done there. But it belonged to a university at one point. They sold it to the museum in Fresno, the Metropolitan Museum. They closed. They sold their whole collection, and you ended up with it at auction.
Yeah, you ended up with you bought the only thing you could afford. Yeah. And then on the pieces, like say there's a little doll inside the box. Just on the bottom of it, you write with like a whiteout or a white paint pen a number. That's the museum number, like the old catalog numbers you see on the artifacts.
You get yourself
That's easy
a typewriter.
enough.
You type right out a tag or a piece of paper that explains what it is on yellow paper.
Yeah, those were usually on 3x5 cards. Really, sometimes they'll have like I used to hang out in the back of a museum before for a couple of years, learn a lot of this stuff. They'll have like a name of the product, who donated it, where they got it, catalog number, that refer to more detailed information.
Yeah. And the perfect thing I've been using is the Fresno Metropolitan Museum, which had a large collection of all kinds of interesting things, and they went bankrupt. They shut down, and they sold everything. And they actually sold a lot of stuff in private auctions.
Mm-hmm. And that stuff is all going to have catalog numbers. Some of it's going to be miscellaneous stuff that got thrown on shelves. Like, if you've ever been in the back room of a museum, it's horrifying what's back there.
Yeah, it's a mess.
I mean, it's literally like, oh, my God, I can't even believe I'm looking at this. Why is this not on the floor? Well, we got so much space on the floor. I was over here at a museum that basically changed everything now, called Boonshoff. It used to be the Dayton Museum of Natural History. We're in the back. He's put in a textile vault. The curator, he said, Bill, let me show you the textile vault. He's turning this big crank, and this vault's opening up, the sliding door of bolts.
Yeah.
Where the whole thing opens up, the whole big box is like shipping container. And inside's all these file cabinets, these like long file cabinet drawers. And he opens the first one and he goes, you know what that is? That's a robe worn by the last emperor of China. He closes the door, opens another one. That's a robe worn by the emperor before him. And it kept going. I was like, oh, my God. Millions of dollars a piece, And then he's like, over here, this is an Indian warrior's dress that was all beaded. One is the Battle of Wounded Knee. I was like, geez, why is this stuff out of there, man? Just incredible. And then in the back, there's 15th century ship cannons and Eskimo whale hunting stuff and just mummy hands and miscellaneous fragments. It's just extraordinary.
There's another problem with bizarre presentations. A lot of times somebody will have something that belongs in a museum, something that's worth millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're just carrying it around in a shoebox. It makes no sense. Like, this is Edgar Allan Poe's, glasses or tobacco pipe or something that's valuable. You're just carrying it around. It's a problem of acquisition. Why would this bizarre magician have this? This doesn't make any sense. Sometimes people overshoot and kind of ruins it, kind of spoils it.
Well, you can overshoot. Like in one of my metaphysical shows, I carry holy relics, first-class relics of saints. They're small, and then I hand them out to people. Let them check them out. Because my philosophy was, and like if you see a first-class relic, you usually can't touch the thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's worth maybe $500. It's not like a priceless treasure or anything, but I like handing these things out, Take a look at it. It's only a couple $100. Just don't drop it. Be careful with it. It's real. There's a piece of Pope Pius X in there, and that's a piece of John Newman. A couple piece of his bone in it. It's just kind of a neat object. But then I'll hand out Buddhist amulets and all kinds of weird stuff. So that was a Mystic Energy series I put out.
Things that it makes sense that you would have. Something weird, but not overly expensive. Something.
Yeah, not like something that I could sell Christie for $100,000 and buy a new car,
Yeah. Like, you don't have Houdini's pocket watch for real.
Yeah, because I'd sell that to a collector and buy a car.
If David Copperfield comes out on stage and says, this is Houdini's pocket watch, I believe him.
Yeah, because he's got a bunch of money getting a hold of it. Or like Darren Brown when he did, what was it, the Automated Man or whatever, Seven Galley. The Seven Galley doll.
Uh-huh.
That Johnny Gone restored and stuff, but it was a real piece. He was actually using it. I mean, it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it was on stage, and you're not, like, playing with it,
Yeah. You go to a Copperfield show, he'll have a display out front with like all kinds of Houdini stuff. He has Houdini's locks and chains. He has it under glass. A lot of times people, they'll take my age documentation for things like the Spirit Telegraph. It's supposed to be really old documentation and stuff. And they'll put it under glass. They'll put it and frame it, make it look like it's actually valuable. It's a good idea. Like they're handling it very carefully.
Yeah, and there's a point where you don't want to cross. Like, why would you say you had Houdini's pocket watch? Why wouldn't you say this is the pocket watch owned by one of the guys that worked with Houdini? That would make more sense. It'd be cheaper. Still do the same thing.
Yeah.
This is owned by an assistant of Houdini's. That would make sense that you would carry it around because it's not like a actual Houdini treasured object or something,
Or it's a pocket watch, very, the same model that Houdini owned, but it's not Houdini's, but it's the same one, same model, same type. Yeah.
Right. It would make a little more sense. Or You know, this is the antique chair from the same inn that Edgar Allan Poe would stay at in Connecticut.
Uh-huh.
You know, that would make sense.
Or
you know, he may have sat on this chair. I like the idea of may have used it. Not necessarily did use it, but may have used it because it was in the lobby, you know.
A real simple one is like they were doing restoration work on a historical site like Edgar Allan Poe's house, and they were replacing something, and I got a piece of the wood.
Right. I have a bunch of that.
Uh-huh. Something you actually could acquire.
I actually have pieces of the Jonathan Coon's spirit house. I found it. Thank God they burned the wood. Because burnt wood can survive for 1,000 years in the ground. Thank you, boys. It's a little piece of, you know, Jonathan Coon's spirit house, 1852. Pretty cool. So I got a couple of them. When you go back to that property today, because you get a double barrel shotgun going off. But yeah, there's a lot of that stuff, like historical artifacts that could be found, you know.
Yeah. And
they do restoration on this property all the time. They, you know, the stuff just goes right to the curb. I got pieces of porch from, or I think I only got stolen. I had a piece of porch from one of the famous guys here in Ohio when they tore up his house. But, you know, just all kinds of interesting stuff like that. They could tell a story, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, stuff that is credible, stuff that you could actually acquire, stuff that's within your budget. It could be, you also do stuff that's, you don't know the actual origin of it. It's just old, you don't really know where it came from, but it's neat, whatever it is.
Oh, I love those pieces. Those pieces are great. Because then they can be anything you want.
You could have a friend that's a metal detector enthusiast that's digging up all kinds of weird stuff all the time and bringing it to you.
Yeah, his junk is your treasures, man. I'm telling you. He's up here. We got guys like Charles Kettering, one of the guys that founded IBM and Kettering Technologies, made tons of stuff back in the 20s and 30s. Oh, yeah. I went out for the museum and looked through his old, we went out with metal detectors, and they have a remnant of a hunting lodge. So I thought, you know, there's got to be something left around by this guy. So we went through with the metal detector around the hunting lodge, and we found old bullet shells and casings that would have been fired off by Kettering when he was over, you know, having hunting parties and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And gave those to the museum. You know, I didn't want them. I just wanted to see if we could find anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like gold coins or something, you know. It was a good excuse to get in the park or check the place to see if we could find a bag of gold. We didn't find any gold, though. But we did find a lot of, like, bullets and, you know, old tokens and stuff that would have been carried by those guys when they were at the hunting lodge in the 1900s. Just kind of cool stuff, actually.
Yeah.
But that kind of stuff, I think that kind of stuff is, you know, a lot of guys sell it on eBay for $3, $4, $5, $6 or something. And some of that stuff, this old metal, it looks really cool. You know, they came off of an old battlefield site or something. There's always something that came from, you know, somewhere that you're not allowed to dig now, like Gettysburg. But yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff out there that I think could be, you know, like bullets from the Civil War, common, relatively, you know.
It's Civil War stuff's everywhere back east. Yeah, all over.
Oh, it's everywhere. I mean, they fired off millions of rounds of ammo. You can find ammo just laying on the ground. Actually, up here they found an area during the Revolutionary War where the French were, they were shooting into the sill for target practice. They're pulling out 17th century musket balls.
Wow.
Just really cool stuff, you know, kind of a local interest thing, but, you know, some of that stuff you can do a lot with that and the magnet. Boom, that thing's moving all over the place. You know, steel cannonballs or musket balls.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a ton of that stuff that you could actually incorporate in it. It would make sense that, you know, maybe you found it metal detecting one day if you did that kind of thing. But there's all kinds of those interesting stories that I think could be told, just in even local history areas. You know, like I know Fresno's got a pretty bizarre local history.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff down there. Also,
well, San Francisco, you know, when they moved all the tombs out of San Francisco because there's no burials inside the city, They took all the headstones after they moved everybody and threw the headstones out in the ocean.
Oh, wow.
You can go diving and pull up the headstone from 1900s. Yeah, look it up. It's crazy. Some of the beaches have headstone, like broken rocks on them. They're actually old headstones.
The limestone washing up is, or marble washing up as headstone.
Yeah. But they even got like little like piers that go out. They're actually, some of the stones in those piers are old headstones. From when they quit burying people in the city in San Francisco. I mean, it's just fascinating history, you know. And there's a bunch of those just laying in the bottom of the water, you know. 20 feet deep. The scuba gear. Grab that bad boy. Little underground maze of headstones. But there's all kinds of weird stuff like that. I mean, Ohio's got a bunch of weird stuff. I know Fresno's got a bunch of weird stuff. You know, relics from the fires, relics from the floods. I mean, all that stuff is fascinating.
Yeah. We've had big floods in the valley and buried parts of cities and stuff. There was a huge flood about 100 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, 100 years ago, and we had a big flood. You know, water was 8, 9 feet up. There's even some buildings that still have some, like, water damage lines on them. But there's all kinds of stuff like that. You just got to dig through the old history books and find a weird tale.
We have
and luckily we got a historian up here that writes books on like weird stories from Dayton's past. You know, the books are a treasure trove. But how are we doing on time, Robert?
Oh, we're about 2.5 hours now.
Okay.
So
should probably wrap it up.
Okay.
We're going to have to get you back on, Tim.
Oh, sure. I'll love to get back on.
Yeah, this is much fun.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again, bring you back. And this was a really great program. And again, we need your support. So anybody who donates at least $10 to this program, then they will be entered into a monthly drawing for some freebies. So really good goodie bag.
Tim, do you have anything new? Where can they get your work at now?
Well, nothing's going on right now. I'm going to launch my own website in a couple months here. It's Dark Force Magic's going to be the website. It's not up yet. But if anybody wants to contact me and ask me anything, or have me build something, or they have an idea, they can contact me at cocomax@aol.com, and we can talk about it.
Okay. Is that C-O-C-O? How do you spell it, Tim?
COCOMAX @AOL.com.
Okay. I just want to make sure they got the spelling right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this has been a blast. Doesn't even feel like we've been on the phone for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Bill, thank you for the stories you gave to us, and a double thank you for our special guest, Tim Wisseman, and that was really, really great insight.
It was amazing, absolutely amazing. I was baffled at half of it.
Yeah, so this program was pretty badass. So, thank you, Tim.
Okay, I've had a very weird life and a lot of stories here.
Yeah, I lived one myself. Yeah.
You're gonna have to share more stories with us the next time.
Sure, absolutely. And I'll try to get you those documents on. I'll look at my file and see if I can find the Pandora stuff.
Okay.
And some of the other weird stuff I've came up with. That maybe you can turn into a box and put through Gemini or something.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's definitely.
I'd like to see some of the stuff come to Volition. You know.
Sure.
That's my reward on Pandora, which is actually, hey, look at that. Because most of the stuff, we don't make any money on it anyway, so, you know.
Okay, well, I'll talk to you next time.
All right.
Sounds good.
Great. Wraps this edition of PSicast, and we will see you guys next week when Tom Jorgensen is going to be on. Woo! It's going to be a big one, so keep an eye out for it. All right, guys, we will see you later.